Alright, so for today's video, we got a little bit of a different style video for you guys. Pretty much, it's more like a story time, and rather than me just dropping advice on you guys, which I do enjoy doing, of course, but it's always good to switch it up and change up the content. So today, I'm going to be talking about my worst ever first date. Oh man. In the grand scheme of things, okay, it really was not horrible, but for me, it was pretty damn bad. Like, experiencing it was treacherous, to say the least. And that's speaking volumes alone with the terms I just used to describe that date. But once you hear it, you'll actually understand what I'm saying. And this video actually was inspired by this video I watched by this guy named Alex. Literally just Alex, nothing else. And I want to make that clear because this video idea is not my own. It's inspired by somebody else's. It's just me telling my own personal experience. So, yeah. Anyways, just wanted to get that out of the way. But besides the point, listen, I've talked to a large number of girls in my time. That's a half-truth. An abundance, I think, is a better words. A good number, but like not like a ton. But enough to have plenty of experience. Now, this particular girl that I went on this date with, I'm obviously not going to name names. I met her off of Tinder. This was probably December 2023, I want to say, like very early December 2023. It was 3 to 4 months after the situation with the girl that created this channel. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you're a newcomer, then go and watch my very first video and you'll understand. But that's besides the point. So I was in a point in my life where I was ready to start up something new, and where I was fresh off of college, or fresh into college, excuse me. A lot of my friends were encouraging me to try out dating apps because of the wide range of girls that were now on campus and the amount of them that used dating apps, especially Tinder in this case. Now, just to clarify, I don't approve of the use of Tinder, but for the time being, it is crucial in my understanding of why I now don't like Tinder. Just so you guys know, who have never tried dating apps out before, most of the time people treat dating apps like a game, and whoever you find most attractive will probably not swipe on you, which is kind of annoying, but it's the way the game goes as people treat it. Yeah, it kind of sucks, but it's the way it is. So my advice, don't try dating apps because they suck and no one takes them seriously. If you want real results, go and talk to someone in person. Anyways, off topic again, but this girl I had recognized from, I don't know, somewhere. I felt like I think she did track. Actually, she did do track. And that point right there that I've just made is a key point to this story as to why it didn't go well for me and why I did not enjoy it. And because I'd recognized her, I obviously thought she was attractive, so I swiped on her. And I guess she ended up swiping back on me because she knew people that I went to school with, and they told her about me, I guess. Unfortunately, however, for the sake of this date, it didn't really help my case because these people that told her about me, I'm not exactly on the best of terms with. And it's not exactly that we hate each other or anything like that, or that we have beef. It's just, I don't know. I'm personally not a fan of them. It's just kind of all that it comes down to. And yeah, that's kind of irrelevant, but it didn't really help things to begin with. But anyways, we started talking after she swiped back on me, and the initial messaging back and forth was pretty good. We asked each other some pretty hefty questions, some pretty deep questions that I felt in the moment were like, okay, this is pretty promising. Because, with the conversation, it takes two to tango. And the fact that she was reciprocating the conversation very well was a great sign. And it automatically had my attention definitely more in her direction compared to the other matches that I had had at the time. And the messaging went on for a few more days before one of us threw out the idea of hanging out. Keep in mind, all of this, between the time I matched with her and the time we went on a date, all happened within the span of a week, which is pretty fast, honestly, at least for me. If I'm talking to anybody, like, if it's in person, okay, that's one thing. But over an app is like, okay. I feel like if I'm gonna actually talk to somebody and go on a date with them through any dating services or any social media, at least thing I can do is give it a couple weeks first and really get to know the person. Maybe call them as well if that's what they're into. So, yeah, that was kind of like, in the moment, my biggest irk that kind of had me like, whoa, okay. That was fast. And I didn't really think much of it, however, which is kind of stupid on my behalf, but that was simply due to the conversation being really well and the fact that she seemed to have a genuine interest in wanting to get to know me. So I was like, okay, shit, why not? And the messaging continued. It all was very good. And then the day we decided to hang out came around. This was exactly 1 week from when we met, actually, or when we matched. Excuse me. And the plan was, I guess, for me to drive about an hour to her house because she lives an hour away from me and went to college an hour away from me. So no matter the situation, I'd be driving in that direction. And I went to her house first, which was like, okay, interesting, okay. And I get to her house, and she seems great at first. The plan for the day was we were going to go to Bowdoin College. If you don't know where that is, that's like 2 hours away from me, pretty much. And we were going to go watch her sister compete at the track meet, which I thought was an interesting first date idea, but I was up for it because I knew people that were competing in that meet anyways, so it was cool. I could probably see some of them run. And, I'm also a guy who is invested in running. Like, I like track stuff, so it was fine with me, really. I didn't really care. And she planned on driving to get there, too, which was cool, because, like, I wouldn't mind having to drive the extra hour to get there to Bowdoin, but it was nice that she offered to drive, so we ended up taking her car to go that way. And the conversation in the car was pretty good, not as good as it was over messaging. She seemed a little quieter. In my case, to not make myself seem like I'm the protagonist here, I probably was a little bit quiet too. In fact, no, I definitely was a little bit quieter. And I mean, that just came with nerves of meeting somebody new for the first time, really. And, like, there was good conversation. Not quite as, rapidly back and forth as it was over messaging. But, it was fine. It was our first time meeting each other, sure. There's probably a little bit of anxiety in the air from that. And we get close to Bowdoin at some point as we're continuing to talk. And she calls her parents, who are going to be there, actually. And is like, yeah, apparently we missed all of my sister's events, as her parents have just informed her. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. We'll just think of something else to do. In my head, I'm like, well, what was the point of that drive? We went all that way just to have nothing happen. And the biggest curveball ever happens And she's like, you want to meet my parents? I'm just like, sorry? What? Parents? First date? I've known you for a week and the parents are already getting met? Like, what? What the fuck, dude? Like, what? That's crazy. Obviously, I didn't say that in my, like, out loud, but in my head, I was panicking. I was panicking because parents on a first date is just wild. That is not something that I typically imagine comes along until, like, a few dates down. First date is crazy. And, so we end up going to meet her parents at this Buffalo Wild Wings, like, probably 20 minutes from where we were at the given time. And from that point on, I just shut down. Like, her and her parents being just there and me having to have dinner with them for the first time I'm meeting this girl I met off Tinder, who I'd barely known for 2 hours in person at the time, was just crazy to me. And that was the point when I pretty much shut down. Mentally, I was petrified, and I kind of just sat there in my seat a lot of the time, tensed up, because, like, I was not ready for this. I was expecting to just have a good time with her and get to know her some more and see where things go. But no, parents get met, and I am shivering me timbers, pretty much. I'm quaking in me boots. Like, I was not having a good time anymore. I was unsure of what to do. I didn't know what to say. Like, it was just the energy in the air was awkward already. Like, I'm sure I couldn't have been the only one to have felt that. And, like, I don't know. The rest of the night was just terrible, honestly. Like, after that, my, like, social battery was completely depleted from that point. Like, the idea of parents being met just so soon completely drained my social battery. And after that, I was just so quiet, bro. Like, you wouldn't even know I was there. And I imagine this is most people's reaction. Maybe this is just me, and I haven't really had a lot of experiences like that. But I don't know. At least to me, meeting parents so soon is just horrifying, dude. Like, am I marrying you already? Like, goddamn. Like, like, that's crazy. But yeah, so the rest of the night was just, just bad, honestly, just really bad. And we ended up going back to her college, which is called Thomas College, and have I said too much information for that? Whatever. But anyways, went back to her college, and we hung out there for a little while. She showed me around. It was pretty cool. I was still trying to recover from that traumatic experience, and I was starting to make some ground again. And I ended up seeing one of my high school friends there, which was fantastic. Made my night for sure. Was the best part of that whole date. Seeing one of my friends who I hadn't seen in months at this point. And that was great. And we met up with one of her friends for a bit, hung out, and then we got back in her car, and she's like, now let's go back to my house, where my parents that you just met will be. And I'm just like, bruh, again? We're going for round 2 already? Like, shit, dude. Twice in a night, I might as well put a ring on it. Like, fuck. That's crazy. And that's exactly what we did. We drove back to her house, and I had to converse with her parents for a second time within the span of, like, 4 to 5 hours, and I was just spent at this point. I was tired. I was not having a good time. I was petrified. I wanted to go home. And for, like, a solid hour, I don't even remember. I stood there in, like, the corner of their living room for, like, an hour just terrified. Because, like, I'm in her house with her whole family there and one of her friends. Just a bunch of people I've barely met for less than a few hours. And I'm just like, what? This is so much pressure. Help. Please. Somebody help. And yeah, after like an hour of just horrific awkwardness, I decided to remove myself from the equation, and I got in my car and went home. Long story short, we never spoke to each other again after that, rightfully so, because that was just not a good time. And I think a part of what made that not a good time, adding on to the whole parent situation, was that I also didn't vibe with her super well, which I guess just I should have probably included that point earlier. But during the car ride to get to the track meet we never even saw, there were some things in there that I just was picking up on, and I wasn't a big fan of. It seemed to be just a lot of conversation about her. The conversation never really went in my direction, which I don't really care that much, but when the entire conversation for like however long of the drive it was all about her, and whenever it would be like in my direction a little bit, it was like, okay, whatever, and would be straight back onto her accomplishments and achievements, and like, that's great that you're proud of like what you've done and how much you've achieved in your time with track. Like, that's awesome, good for you, like, congrats. But I don't want to hear a straight hour of just everything about what you've done in track and how good you are. Like, I'm not about that kind of energy, you know? Like, I don't want to be with somebody who, whenever I'm around them, is just solely talking about the things they've done that are so great. And I think anybody could say the same. I think majority of people who have boundaries and values could easily say that, like, they would not want to be with somebody who is just going to talk about themselves the entire time. Like, that's a big turnoff. No matter what gender you are, you could be a guy doing that shit, you could be a girl doing that shit, and it's unattractive regardless of who you are. So, yeah, that just kind of added on to the whole thing for me. And, yeah, after that, we did not ever speak to each other again. And that story right there is essentially one of my biggest motivating factors as to why I don't do dating apps, and I'm not about that lifestyle because of that, honestly. And just other stories too, which I might cover in the future. But that's the big one for sure, or one of the big ones that have gotten me into the mindset of my disliking towards dating apps. So yeah, a little story time for you guys. Threw something different your way. I hope you enjoyed. I will definitely try to do more story times of this kind of stuff in the future. So yeah, that's really all I have for today, to be honest. So, in that case, stay blessed.